Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Roski Talks, USC, April, for inviting me. When I met her back at ASU, and shortly after she asked me, would you be up for doing a talk at USC? How can I say no? It's April Greiman. Of course I will do a talk. And so my talk really is focused on my journey. And the reason I share this with students, so the last few years I've been presenting to schools because at Google I started a mentorship program, and mostly around just giving back to the community. A lot of students have a ton of questions after they finish school. They want to know, what's it like? What do I do next? Can you look at my portfolio? What's the resume I should write? Things like that. So we put together this program, and I've been doing these talks to just tell you my story of how, when I got out of school to where I am now. But before I get to that, I'll just go quickly into a little bit of my history. Oh.
Would you be okay if we turn off some of the lights?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that okay with the videographer here? Can you turn off the lights over there, please? Who's over by the lights over there? Kirsten, can you turn off? Okay, great. Turn this one off too? Keep pressing. Turn the ladder. Where's it out?
Hey. All right, so a little bit about my background. I won't go too far, otherwise we'll be here all night. So, but my mom, she's from Macau. My dad is Chinese-Mexican. They met in Macau, got married, moved to Mexico, started a restaurant, and really no creative background whatsoever. My mom, I don't think I ever saw her draw a stick figure. My dad, not the most creative, but loved working with his hands. He, at the restaurant, just to save money, he would want to build things, and he'd say, oh, we need a stool here for when I make iced tea. I want to sit on a stool. And he'd get out all the tools and make this thing. Not the safest looking stool, pretty scary, but just loved working with his hands. And I think that's where I get some of that. The creativity part, I don't know where I got it from, but I dug this up from my 6th grade yearbook. And my teacher had basically, she saw me being in the arts. I do like that she said I have a terrific sense of humor, weird, but a future in art. So I think she was right, because in junior high and high school, I would draw all the posters, the banners, and always walked around with a camera. So developing photos, taking photos, just really enjoying art. And so I didn't want to go to school, but my parents forced me to go to school. And so I went to Arizona State, where they have a wonderful design program. And again, I fought my parents, didn't really like it. I did 3 years before I dropped out and said, I just want to work. I don't want to do this. But then ended up getting some weird jobs and basically decided I need to go back to school. Another part of this presentation is that I give little tips and advice. And so thank goodness for my parents to push me into staying in school, which tip number 1 is go to school, stay in school, and finish. There's a reason for it. There's a lot of experiences that you just gain in school that isn't as, I guess, forgiving as the real world or the corporate world. So do the best you can at school. It's okay to make mistakes, but learn from it. So coming out of school, I knew two things I really wanted to work on. I wanted to work on branding an airline and doing a stamp. It was, how hard could it be, right? Turns out it's really hard. But I followed, or my journey basically pushed me to some big cities. I had New York, Seattle, Chicago, LA, and then my parents said, you should move to San Francisco. And so I packed up my stuff. I had finished my portfolio, did a bunch, like maybe 50 packets, sent it out to studios, big and small, and basically just got denied. I had a few interviews, didn't go very well. But tip number 2, never give up. Because eventually, from cold calls to even just showing up and saying, hey, I sent you a packet, what do you think? And having that conversation. And so luckily, I ended up getting an offer to be an intern at Interbrand. And it wasn't even for 3 months that the internship opened up. But I was excited about it, and luckily for me, the intern they had wasn't very good. So they let him or her, not sure, go, and then they called me up 2 weeks later and said, can you start on Monday? And I said, absolutely, I will start, super eager. And the really great thing about Interbrand's San Francisco office is it was a way smaller satellite office. Interbrand is a global agency, but their San Francisco office was a lot smaller. So the really cool thing was they didn't treat me as an intern. I came in on day 1. We had just received a new branding project for a bank, and I had 3 weeks to work with the designers, the creative directors, and just design. I thought I was just gonna make photocopies and all the intern things, but no, I just sat at my desk and sketched a bunch of stuff. And the really cool thing is that as an intern, my logo was the second runner-up. It did not get chosen after a few weeks of working on it. My creative director's boss, or my boss, the creative director, his logo got chosen for Wachovia Bank. Now, I wish I can show you my logo, but tip number 3, archive your work. I'm the worst at archiving work, so I don't even have the work to show you what that second runner-up logo was. But what was really cool was the experience. And it just gave me a lot of confidence because, again, here's just an intern competing against, senior designers, art directors, creative directors, and my logo was up there. And I got to do 3 internships at Interbrand because they couldn't hire me, but they didn't want to let me go. So they gave me an internship. But again, back to the never give up part. I stuck with them, and eventually it kind of led me to my journey here, which is working for some pretty cool and big brands. I did do my own little thing, my studio for just a little bit. I had some decent clients, but it was tough. So going back and forth between Interbrand landlord, then doing your own thing, I'm not the best at finding new business. So it's something that, I think it takes another skill really to find that new business. The work I can do, but getting the business is hard. So at that point, I decided to jump over and try something different than agency work. I went in-house and I joined Leapfrog. And then from there, I'll go through some of the work as I go through it. Just wanted to show you my path. Tip number 4, meet as many people as possible. To me, my experience has been all about connections. Again, as an intern, I wanted to meet everyone, and then that led to the next thing, meeting the next creative director, and it just goes from that. It basically just opens up a bunch of doors. Sometimes they don't lead to anything, but it's still just a great way to have doors open up for you. So a little bit about the work I've done. So just a handful of identities, brands I got to work on. Some I designed from scratch, some were just refreshes, some just hired us to do packaging, just all sorts of work, but it was really good experience, and every client here is very different. Some are super easy, some just whatever you design they love, some you design and they hate it, tell you to go back. But eventually they catch on and they say, okay, this system works, and then they take it on. So expect a lot of that. It's not always easy. So just some of the logos I've done. And again, this is just kind of showing you the brands, but it includes, from the whole business system to environments, to websites. It's their whole entire brand. So from healthcare to stock exchange, Logitech, when I joined Logitech, they had this weird jelly logo, and it was the most complicated thing to replicate. And so when I went in, I just said, we need to simplify this thing. And so we just flattened it, introduced a new font, and then built out a whole system and packaging from there. And all it took really was just a conversation of, this is a really dated logo. What can we do to change it? And then the VP of marketing said, well, let's see what you got. And so I basically just sat at my desk, designed a bunch of logos, built out a whole system, and then presented to him. And he was like, all right, you got something here. And then just kept working on it, and then eventually got them to change their other symbols. We've got to work on playing with letter forms to create symbols. Vogue was a really interesting product back in the day. It was what was supposed to kill the BlackBerry phone, because this was the high-tech phone. It did not last. But we got to work on a really cool brand for them. Certains was a Seagate affiliate. They made tape drive divisions. To big, events like the FedEx Cup, or even a gambling site for Twin Spires. But what's really cool about working on these is some of the stuff that just doesn't get chosen. You work really hard at these things, and what's really fun is just the exploration. DirecTV is one of my favorite projects we worked on. It was, I think, a little over a year. And these guys basically were like, nope, not this, not this, not this. And for a whole year, we just got to design logos, which I can't complain about that. But it's the work. We'd fill the conference room with ideas, put some together, go present to them, and they'd come back and say, start over. And so, but you learn so much. It was like getting a new project every single time, which is really cool. And so tip number 5 is don't be down on yourself if your work isn't chosen. It's gonna happen a lot in your career. God knows how many times I've thought I had the best solution for a project, and then you go present it and people hate it. So you have to pick yourself up and then just keep going. I don't think I know a single designer who every single time they just, whatever they do, the client loves the first time. It's really rare. And so packaging, how did I get into packaging? When I was at Interbrand, our new business guy ended up getting a project for Or Wheat. Now this one isn't my package. Again, I'm the worst at archiving, but our new business guy got Or Wheat, and they wanted a brand refresh and for us to touch up their packaging. And so nobody at the time wanted to work on packaging. We're brand guys. We just design identities, don't want to do packaging. But I had just finished a project, so I volunteered to do Or Wheat, and then all of a sudden I became the packaging guy afterwards. The interesting thing about this package, because I wasn't too happy working on it, on the back of this, on the nutrition facts, they used to have a food pyramid. So, they show like what you should eat and whatnot. And I was so mad, I start drawing it, and I put my initials in the little bread illustration. Forgot about it. Like 6 months later, I'm at the grocery store, I pick up the bread, I look at the back, and I see my initials on the back of the package. And so I call my family up, I'm like, you guys have to go buy Or Wheat packaging. My name is on it. Again, I wish I can show you, but I don't have it. But it goes to tip number 6. Don't personalize the client's work secretly. It is not a good idea. There's a lot of people who have gotten in a lot of trouble doing this, doing some very inappropriate things as well. So treat it with respect. And although it's very tempting, just don't do it. And then after that, again, I was like the packaging guy. So all sorts of packaging stuff started coming my way, from outdoor equipment to Epson printers, cookies from Colombia, to Clorox sending us a bunch of work. So a lot of interesting packaging. Kaiser Permanente came to us, and they said their shelves were a total mess. Nobody knew their over-the-counter drugs were even by Kaiser Permanente, so they hired us to redo their packaging. So I came up with a very simple system of call it what it is, use the color of the national brand, so at least you can try to compete with them. And you don't need all sorts of graphics, you don't need anything crazy, just be very simple with what it is. These are drugs, so don't mess around with it. You don't need to get cute with it. The only cute part we tried to do is on the caps for like stool softener, pain reliever, on just a few of them, we redesigned the cap to try to mimic the logo. So if you kind of put them together, it looks like the Kaiser Permanente, but it wasn't just for looks or just to get them to look like the logo. It was about ergonomics too. So you can the cap easily fits into the palm of your hand. You can push down and then twist. You don't have to really grab it. So there was some intent behind it. It wasn't just, hey, it'd be cool to do this. To the don't do's in packaging. So not the proudest moment. Really, working at Leapfrog was really eye-opening. When they were hiring, they wanted someone to come in and create the Apple packaging for toys. And so I came in, I did a bunch of what I thought was cool and simple. And then you have one person coming in to the meetings and saying, well, your logo needs to be bigger. Next person comes in, oh, well, you need a sub-brand, and you need this, you need a tagline. And so before you know it, you start adding all these things, and then it looks like this. And this wasn't even enough for them. There's all the other panels, there's the back panel, and it's just filled with information. We try to pull a lot of research and data and saying, you don't even have, your consumers don't have time when they're going down the aisle. It's too much to look at. You only have about 3 seconds to catch someone's attention. This is too much. And so they said, okay, we got it. Oh, and by the way, this has a flap, so you can kind of open the front, and then there's even more information on it. So it's insane. So when their second generation product came out for younger kids, they tried to do the same thing. They gave me a creative brief, and it was about making it simple. We shouldn't over-explain. Let's try to keep it, as clean as possible. Nope. This is what they ended up doing. It's basically the same formula where it's like, you need this logo, you need this violator, you need this fake award about us being the #1 best-selling reading system. And then you have to show the product. And when you show the product, even back then we were saying, just show a photo of it. It's so much plastic in toy packaging. And toy packaging is very, very frustrating. There's so many ties and so many things, unnecessary waste, really. But at the end, you have to communicate. The execs want to over-communicate. So you end up with packaging like this, and nobody knows what to look at anymore. And so, tip number 7 is keep calm. You'll get the next one. So you just have to get used to, the marketing guys, the legal guys, even retailers. So while working at Leapfrog, I was very confused when Toys R Us or Walmart would come and tell us how to design packaging and how to design our brand. And you go, wait, why are we taking art direction from Walmart? But if you want to be in their stores, you have to comply with their wishes. Some of them, you fight back on some of the other stuff, but it's okay, keep pushing. And then eventually you start to do slightly more thought out design. So when I joined Nest, it was, if you guys know about Nest, started by Tony Fadell, a guy who came from Apple. And so he knew a lot about marketing and a lot about design. I think his nickname, or it's the godfather of the iPod. So he knew how to really push creatives to create something simple. We started with the thermostat, which we used the white sleeve to show the high tech. And because the thermostat was about energy savings, we brought in the craft to really show a little bit about sustainability. And then from there, from the thermostat, even then I was pushing him to say, do we really need the tagline on this? It's too much stuff on the front of the box. It's pretty minimal, but it's like, can we reduce even more? But he's like, we're a new product. We still have to tell our users what it is. So he understood, but at the same time, he's like, we just have to be able to still communicate a little bit about it. And he's like, it's not that bad. So, which really it isn't. But this is, at Nest, this is where I was able to learn a lot more about the details and the manufacturing of packaging. A lot of the things our users don't ever really see, we care a lot about. We care about the unboxing. We care about the smallest little radius of a flap on the inside. How big is that radius? No one's going to see it. It doesn't matter. It makes us happy. Let's push for it. So really kind of pushing the boundaries of, at the time, what we can do. And what was really cool about it was we didn't have too many limits, which is weird for a startup because you're trying to be budget friendly, but Tony really felt like we needed to come out with a, with a good first impression. So packaging was pretty expensive, and then over time we were able to reduce the costs quite a bit. Cost is very important to companies, so it's something that everyone kind of has to keep in mind, unfortunately. But cool that he let us spend the money for some of these, and then doing even special VIP packages. So we did a limited edition bamboo box, found some wallpaper because thermostats go up on a wall, so it was a cool little box. When we start getting even more products, it wasn't so much about energy savings anymore, sustainability, and so we wanted to show the product in situ. What would it look like in the environment? And so we redesigned the whole package to just show you the beauty of it. We know from research that most people aren't looking at packaging to make a decision whether you're gonna buy it or not. You've already done your research, you know you're gonna buy it, so you don't need too much information. So with this package, we had actually reduced a whole lot of the copy. We just didn't need it anymore. Everyone walks around with a phone. You can look up all the information you need, so let's simplify on packaging. And then we start pushing sustainability a little bit more. So even the little details on the bottom right image is how do you break down a box? So after you've opened it, now what do you do? So sometimes with a smoke detector, you're not just buying one of them, you're buying multiple of them. And so now you're basically, you end up with a bunch of trash at the end of the day. And so how do you break it down? These boxes are pretty strong, so you do need a little force. We did a study, and a lot of people just didn't know how to break them down. And so by putting the little arrows of you split it this way, people understood it. So little design details to help the user. So this is when Google hardware first came around, which is around 2016. Google, as you can imagine, big place. They had a bunch of individual divisions. So you had the Pixel phone, you had Chromecasts, you had laptops, Chromebooks, and everyone was doing their hardware. Glass, I don't know if you guys remember Glass, they had their own packaging. But nobody really knew it was coming from Google because everyone did their own look, their own brand. And so when we came in, we said we're going to take all these things and then we're going to build a visual system for Google. And so it started here with some of the products, and we tied it all together. I came in and basically saw how much plastic we were using. We were using a ton of plastic in the packaging. Since, I think, 2016 to today, we've reduced a huge percentage. I don't have the exact number, but it's a huge percentage of plastic we've removed. To some boxes now are plastic-free. So it's a good step forward. There are some things that we still need to add plastic to just to protect, because people want perfect, pristine products. To eventually, when Nest folded in fully under Google, we had more products, needed to design more packaging, and so just a handful of boxes we had to create. And when we talk about packaging, what my team focuses on is pretty much from end to end. We have packaging engineers, we have supply chain managers. I mean, it's a huge group of people to create packaging, but we choose the materials, we think about the open box experience. I used to, before getting into packaging, I used to always wonder who designs the booklets, the warranty booklets inside, because they're the most boring things ever. I do that now. So I'm designing these booklets. And so we do a lot of that. And so, yeah, that's kind of what my team does. To some of the newer products, we think about other forms for like the ear tip holders. A tube is not anything new, but I like how the idea came about. Was a packaging engineer was drinking boba, and the boba straw was made out of paper. And she was looking at it and she said, why don't we just use boba straws? They can't be that expensive. Let's just put caps on them. And that's how that tube kind of came about. So pretty cool creative solution for it. To, again, even looking at hang tabs, going from plastic to creating molded fiber parts for that. So sustainability. Google recently, about 2-3 years, announced that we were going to be eco-friendly company, and so by 2025 all our packaging needs to be plastic free. And so we've been pushing really hard the last few years to reduce as much plastic and to be as sustainable or recyclable as we can be. And so we have to break everything apart and really look at, okay, so what does it take to do that? From the glues you use, to the inks, the coatings, to the gray board, the tapes we use. We have to take it all apart, and then we look at everything, and from there, basically start removing plastic. Not as easy as it sounds. We're getting there to be 100% plastic free, but little by little. To even, working with some cool materials. That ribbon is made out of paper, which we use for some hang tags as well. Oh, and then the trays. So these trays here, in some of the studies we've done, they've gotten so clean and perfect that when users see them, they think it's plastic. So then they don't know what to do with them. Some of the higher ups in Google, they want to make that even smoother and more perfect. We're fighting it because, again, we don't want to confuse our users with something that potentially looks like plastic. So when you create these molded fiber trays, you have a mesh in the bottom, the pulp in the middle, and a press, and it presses. We like that texture you get on the trays to make it look like it's recyclable. So some of the details that we think about when we're working on packaging, to even packages that most people don't really care about. This is our refurb box for our phones. It's a one-size-fits-all. You basically put your phone in the middle, and then once you close the flaps, it locks your phone in place. No plastic in it. We keep it super simple and super clean. And this is what you receive. And when you get your new phone, you put your old one in, pack it back up, and send it back to us. So sustainability is a very big topic. Again, it's a long journey. It's not super easy. But yeah, tip number 8, don't say you just want to be green. Do something about it. And so we've been pushing our execs at work and showing them examples of how can we achieve this goal by 2025. And we've been trying to do this for many, many years, even before they announced publicly that we needed to be plastic-free by 2025. It's very challenging. Sustainability is very expensive. And so you have to find creative ways to get around that. And so the team. This is just whoever I can fit on the screen. I had everyone call in from around the world. It takes a lot of us, and this is just a handful of the packaging team. It takes really an army to do this, and we work with so many teams, from execs to writers to just so many teams. The list just goes on and on and on and on. And let me tell you guys, everyone has feedback for you. I don't know what it is about packaging, but for some reason, it just welcomes feedback. And so you get some guy who will say, hey, I heard from a user test that someone didn't know how to plug in the power adapter on a laptop. And I'm like, and that's my problem because I don't know. You get weird feedback from every direction. Some of it is absolutely valid, but you really have to pick and choose. You can't fight every single battle, but you do work with the teams. And tip number 9 is packaging is hard. Don't try to do it by yourself. It really, really, you need the team. You need to know when to raise your hand. You need to, I think I was reminded by it today on the plane. I just flew in today. And on the plane, they say, when your mask, if there's an emergency and the mask comes down, to make sure you put the mask on first before you help others. And it's just that you have to know when to raise your hand. You need to know when to just kind of be responsible, so then you can take care of the rest of the team. And then I always tell this to my team, same thing with you guys. If you guys need help, ask, because we can't do it by ourselves. All right, because this is a school, comes the fun part. I got to give you guys a quiz. So hopefully you guys were paying attention. I'm just kidding. It's an easy, fun test. But this is just something I wanted to put together to kind of sum up my journey here, which is brand and packaging, and the importance of the brand and what you have to do to get recognition. And then packaging, because if you make products and you do a good job, it doesn't matter if you strip things away or you modify things, you understand or you know which brand it is. So I've modified a few images. This is the interactive part. So if you guys know what package it is, go ahead and shout it out, all right? I'll start with they're all easy, but what package is this? Yeah. See, everyone knows it. Even though you remove everything, They've built a brand, they've built a lot of consistency. So it doesn't matter what you strip away. They can go with probably a very plain box and you know it's Apple. How about this? Yeah, see, you change the color, it doesn't matter. You guys know what it is. KFC, delicious. But very recognizable packaging. What about this? Okay, how about this? So it's just a bow, and you guys know like what it is. But they do own the color, so super important. I forget what Pantone color it is. Do you guys know what Pantone? Pantone 7 something? I don't know. But very important. You build a brand around as simple as a color. How about this? Yeah, okay, well, that's too easy. So color, and then, how about this? Toblerone, yeah. I mean, delightful chocolates. Okay, so as far as hiding secret messages, I don't know if you guys know about their logo, but there's a bear in there. That's okay, but don't secretly do certain things.
What's in there?
There's a little bear in there. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys see it. Little bear right there. Yeah.
The bear was on the design team, is that what you're saying?
What's that?
The bear was on the design team?
Yeah. Take a, yeah. How about this one? Do you guys know? Thought I'd throw in something sustainable in here. No? No? Puma. So they basically reduced a bunch of boxes by having a bag that you can reuse. So it just has a shell and it's all made out of cardboard. It still protects your shoes. You don't need too much protection for your shoes. And then at the end, you can end up with a bag that you end up using over and over again. How about this? Yeah, well, it's just a piece of tape, and you guys know what it is. So again, really important to really build brands, and then just build that consistency across so then you get recognition. Really important, guys, and that's kind of my mission at work is that, you know, maybe one day you guys will see a very simple package and then you'll say that's Google packaging. And I know the guy who did it. All right, and so to wrap up this whole thing, over the years, people have sent me some really bad packages. And so I thought I'd end it with a little bit of fun. And so I'll show you guys some packaging gone wrong. So consistency is great, but if you have fly and insect killer looking just like your canola spray, that's a problem. Or if you need allergy eye drops and then you use earwax removal, it's not good. I get it, it's consistent to the brand, but there could be some confusion. And this we have actually done at work way too many times. Again, very consistent, but some issues. This one's really important. Something for you guys to all learn. When you create a brand mark, don't recreate it every single time. So original, original. So somebody basically just recreated this for every flavor. Don't do it. You create logo suites for a reason, so then you don't have mistakes like this. This one's weird. I don't know if it's a weird rebranding thing, but is it Electrosol by Finish or Finish Electrosol? I don't know, but they live together on the shelf. It's the same product. Color coordinating. If your salted butter is red, the inside should still stay red. You shouldn't switch over. So consistency from the outside of the package to the inside, please. Using imagery that is not really correct, not suitable for climbing, and they show a guy climbing with a rope. So don't do that. Product consistency or reality, like this is amazing, snowflake, but I don't know how they got that, right? So let's be real with, you know, the product photography that you shoot. That's the cutest dog I've seen. So I've seen this a lot, and maybe it's something on the inside, hopefully. But you get 10% more with one of the cans, and I'm not exactly sure how you get that. 100% beef that's made with all white meat chicken. Like, it's very, very interesting there. I've had many designers try to do this at Google. The one thing to learn here is that you cannot control how retailers, you know, manage your shelf. It's usually Joe Schmo just going up there, putting a bunch of packages and moving up. So you may end up with something like this. So we try not to design things like this because you make it a really long cat. I don't know. Tastes like grandma. I really don't want that jam. I'm sure it's delicious, but yeah. So we do work with a lot of copywriters and brand writers to make sure that we get the messaging right. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Like, all I see is a fart here, so it's not fine art, it's a fine fart. And this is super important. Again, when I say don't do this or don't do packaging by yourself, it's because you have to work with your packaging engineers. You get a die line, you have to know what's gonna happen to the box. So you don't want to feed diapers to your baby that way, no. Again, very interesting cutouts. Work with your packaging engineers so you end up with something like that. Yeah, well, this one, pretty interesting. I think he's shooting Kleenex, not a web out of his you-know-what. All right, and then, of course, I have to talk about sustainability because you see this way too much, which bananas already come with a package, an organic package. I don't understand why you need to have a styrofoam tray and then plastic wrap around it. So, no. Same thing here, avocado. I mean, the amount of waste here is crazy. Avocados already come with a package. I mean, how many boxes do you need to open to get to a tiny little pill? We have to reduce that. Or Amazon does some of this stuff where you're ordering bubble wrap and they're trying to protect bubble wrap. Like, it's really unnecessary. It's so much waste. Big box retailers like Costco, we do need to work with them quite a bit. They want big box. They want everything big. But sometimes it's just it's too much. I mean, it's a light bulb and they have this huge plastic behind the sleeve. We just can't go there. Movie theaters are pretty notorious for this. I don't know why, but it's a package within a package. Yeah, interesting. Very small product and a whole lot of packaging for it. Tiny little part in a huge bag and a tag. At Logitech, we dealt with a lot of stuff like this where you just get a little USB dongle and it's got this huge plastic thermoform and then a whole nother box outside of it to communicate all the marketing talk. We have to reduce stuff like this. And I think more and more as discs are obsolete, I mean, I don't think you need a CD or a DVD case to get you no disc inside. So that is my talk, guys.